right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. You won't be safe in Downing Street, warns Kremlin as Putin orders nuke weapons test after West vows to back Ukraine. Paranoid Putin, and I point this out every time we show this, they always have to put a descriptor before Putin's name, of course, because before the article, or before it starts. And by the way, I point this out because it's not just Putin, it's our former president, it's anybody. They always have to put a descriptor before the thing even starts. You have an opinion of that person, which again, most people already have their opinion about Putin anyway, so you don't really need that. Paranoid Putin has ordered tactical nuclear weapons testing as Russia directly warns the West to back off as fears of an all-out war with NATO surge. Now, I also point this out, too, because, by the way, not a lot of people believe the media right now, and it's really important that we do know the truth about whether he's a paranoid, skeptic, schizophrenic right now, because it's really scary. We're dealing with World War III, so when they are constantly putting in our head that he's paranoid and despotic, and he's basically they describe him as a new Adolf. That's a really scary thing. That's a fear thing. That's like he's paranoid. You think of somebody who's looking over their shoulder and about to push the button for no reason. That's the thing that I want to point out to people, and I've noticed this since I was 20 years old, and that's why I point that kind of stuff out, because it does have a greater meaning. Russia's latest threat comes as the Kremlin tells Western officials if they continue to support Ukraine, then, quote, get this, a worldwide catastrophe will break out, as even those in Downing Street were told they can't hide anymore. Considering it's right next to Churchill's bunker, which is a museum, Dex told me, that, it's kind of creepy to think about that. Even the folks in Downing Street, which is the equivalent to our White House, are no longer safe. Putin told his defense minister Sergei Shoigu to prepare military drills, quote, in order to increase the readiness of non-strategic nuclear forces to fulfill combat missions, it has been reported. It says this is believed to involve land, air, and sea practice and preparations, say the defense ministry. The drills are thought to be linked to the U.S., UK, and France, in particular after the French President Emmanuel Macron declared he will send his troops to Ukraine if Putin breaks through the front line. It says if France was to send their troops to Ukraine's backyard, then it could cause major issues. Well, no duh. It's sending NATO into a war which is non-NATO country. But again, they've actually told us that Ukraine will be a part of NATO. They actually said it will be a part of NATO at some point. It's a guarantee. It's just, is it going to be during a full-on war? That's the point nobody wants, but you can see them slow rolling it and basically desensitizing you to the fact that NATO is going to be in this war, that this is a direct war with Russia, and it will be a direct war with Russia. Whether you believe that Putin is actually trying to take the Baltic states or not, it looks like there are powers trying to push this to happen, because that is exactly what is going down. France and of course Macron coming out and saying this, I have suspected him since, I don't know, Xi actually went to France, met with him, and within 2 days said, yeah, we're actually going to distance ourselves from the U.S. Sketch, to say the least. Now he's stepping up, doing all of these interviews saying, oh yeah, well, people need to stop being such wussies and we might have to send our people in there. He is saying that if the front line in Ukraine is pushed back, then he's going to send French soldiers. Does he get to decide for NATO? Like, that's what I don't understand. We're all in NATO, and he is apparently making a decision for NATO. It wouldn't just be his troops. It would be NATO troops. If it's just French troops, how does that even work? So can a NATO country, is he going to say, well, no, I'm not doing this for NATO. I'm just doing this for our own support for Ukraine? I would hope so, because otherwise that's NATO troops against Russia directly on the front lines. And people just kind of, this is desensitized to the point where I don't hear anybody freaking out about this. Again, this community is obviously going, hey, where are the people that were freaking out a year ago? Where are they right now on this? Where are they, why aren't people panicking saying it's World War III when he's talking about this? Now, I understand that there's people on Twitter and us and this community, but the general population, they are completely oblivious that we're about to go to World War III. and that we're in it. We're in the cold part of it, but getting to the hot kinetic part with actual NATO firing missiles and doing all that, well, that's kind of already happened. You have NATO specialists actually firing the missiles that are hitting inside of Russia. We know this. Again, they're not trying to admit a lot of it, but they've already admitted enough for us to know that there are already boots on the ground, or at least that's according to them. The reason why it could cause a potential major issue is because of Article 5 in NATO's handbook states that all members are obliged to defend each other if there's an attack. Russia are thought to be well aware that if they attack and kill French troops, then they could draw in the UK, German, and even US troops into the battle. So what is he going to declare beforehand? That, hey, if you kill my troops, it's just us going in, and if you declare our troops, we won't call for Article 5. I think it's a bunch of BS, and I think something is about to go down. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Today's going to be a crazy show because we're going to talk about everything else that's happening, including a U.S. soldier that's being held in Russia, but kind of weird circumstances. A staff sergeant was just visiting Russia for fun on a do not travel. It kind of sits wrong. But what do you guys think? We'll see in a minute. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's have it over to the map, and let's, of course, remind you, make sure to go over and check out all of the mods at marfooglenews.com/friends, and let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time. Just a reminder, you can find a full bibliography and a full source list over at marfooglenews.com. When you go there, you will see that you have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today, plus a whole lot more. Of course, there's all sorts of other shows and bibliography lists over there for other shows as well. So you can go back and see exactly where we got it. Now, as far as you won't be safe in Downing Street, that's kind of like saying, Dex, what is the street? What is the street in front of the White House? I mean, what is that street called? Isn't there a
Pennsylvania Avenue? Pennsylvania
Avenue. That's like you won't be safe on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's kind of a direct threat against their White House or their equivalent of. As far as, you know, there's always these threats, and people will continually think, oh, they're just puffing their chest. At what point is it not puffing their chest? Dex, go ahead.
Well, and it's not just Downing Street. The actual quote, and I think in there is something to the effect of none of them will be able to hide either on Capitol Hill, meaning us, or Elysee Palace, the Elysee Palace, which I believe is France, and then 10 Downing Street, meaning, and I think this headline is written for the folks in the UK. Now, the UK has obviously been the ire of Russia, especially during the UKR conflict, because of so much of the support they have given from both intelligence and equipment. But obviously, the US being the number one ire because we give all of the money and all of the additional funds and equipment that go in. But the UK and Russia have a long history going back probably way before the creation of America, for that matter, of a conflict amongst them. So they have a lot of bad history between the two.
Yeah, the direct quote, none of them will be able to hide either on Capitol Hill or in Elysee Palace, or in 10 Downing Street. Of course, they pull out 10 Downing Street, but yeah, they're talking about everybody. Most people aren't going to take this seriously because it's Russia, right? Well, Russia's now teamed up with China and North Korea, and this is something that's going to continue. Whether you think this is orchestrated and they're all just doing this to scare us into something else, well, then think about the something else that you're thinking about. We know that there are agencies and groups above all of these different countries. Like when it really comes down to it, all of these countries are warring, but at the same time, they're all under these umbrellas that work together during 2019. Those same groups are like, well, we're going to change this, and it takes change. That change takes place in all of these countries. The groups in question all usually have 3 letters. Some, begin with a W and end with an E and an F. And those ones are the scariest because they really do have their fingers on pretty much every country. They have their thumbs squarely on every country, and they're saying, oh, well, we want to reset everything. Well, how do you reset if you don't push the power button off first? How do you rebuild or remodel without tearing down first? That's what they're talking about. And it's crazy. People have been talking about this just yesterday. I believe our current prez said something about weather, right? Another comment that was just straight up like, wow, we're going to make sure we can, turn up the intensity on extreme, this and that events. This is after like last week, and these aren't AI videos. These are real just gaffes, right? Or they say they're gaffes, but it seems like he's saying the truth on accident, like he's unknowingly saying what he's thinking, and the people behind are biting their nails going like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just said that. About the painting stuff blue on top of you. Like those kind of comments, I'm like, what the heck? And then his slogan, build back better. What are we building back? That's what I'm saying. I think he meant like we're tearing it down first and then we're going to build back better. They've already said that they are going to bring semiconductor chips to the United States at the same time as saying, Intel was going to do this job at the same time as talking about Taiwan. And it seems like they're just and separating from China. So if we're separating and doing all of this, how is this world going to look like if you have half the world on BRICS and half the world on the US dollar? It's not going to be the same whatsoever. The U.S. hegemony has always, had power over everything. What if that changes? And it wouldn't change. They would go to war. They're going to figure this out. And I'm telling you, there's groups that are above all of these countries, and it will make it look like one thing, but it's really another. At the end of it all, that's what we care about is the result. What is going to be the result of all of these things that are about to happen? World War, people think, oh, they couldn't possibly do this on purpose. Thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions, would perish in a World War III incident. And you know what the people at the top are saying? So they don't care about loss of life. They don't care about anybody besides their own circle of friends. And I bet you a lot of these people don't even care about them. As long as they have a mirror within 5 feet, they are okay. So as far as this goes, like we're in this now. We've called this for years. This community has called this happening for a long time. And now we are all sitting here going, okay, we're arguing about which path this is going to go down, but it's going to go down one of them. So I really hope that people have gotten prepped. Now I see that people on and off camera, everybody is prepping. People are buying properties. People are buying land. I wish I could. I wish I could start a farm, and I wish I could go, do all that stuff. But people are really doing that offline. People are really getting their spots ready. And, are they just afraid? Are they just fooled by the system? Are they fooled by the trickery? Or is that actually going to happen because there's a goal at the end of it? After the dust settles, everything will be kept in one piece, mostly. There will be a couple places destroyed, millions of lives lost, but they will have everything the way that they want it. That's how people are seeing this. There is something massive here, and we've known it for years. Now it's here, and people still don't want to believe it. People didn't want to believe any of the things that the internet thought, right? But almost everything that the internet has said has come true. And I'm being facetious here at the same time, but there's been a lot of the things that just never went to bed. never got laid to rest. All of the thoughts and all of the craziness, it's still here. When people said, "Oh, yeah, well, they've got Walmarts that are, taking people in and they've got cages." Well, we ended up seeing video of almost exactly that. It's like there's always some bit of truth to some of this stuff, and it's like really the event could be completely real, but you'll say, "Oh, it's fake," because of the motivations are altered or they spin it. Right now, we're watching World War III unfold, and the majority of your friends and family are completely in the dark. They have 3 days of food in their fridge, and it's stupid in my opinion. But again, I hope that all of you do your part to just try to get them to see that this is not going to be a fake news thing. This is going to be the real deal, and they have a goal at the end of it. Once you see what they want to accomplish afterwards, you'll realize they can't do that without it all being torn down first. And then once you understand that this is no joke, they're saying it publicly what they want to do. They're saying publicly all of the restrictions and the things that they want to change about our lives. They are saying it publicly, and they have everybody under their thumb. Those groups that are in charge, they literally have power over presidents, prime ministers, princes, and everybody else. It is happening right now, and people still want to think, "Oh, it's just a bunch of fear." It is going to be fear. And a lot of it's propaganda, but it's also propaganda to shape how it's going to move forward. There is an event moving forward right now, and the military-industrial complex, like people said in the comments, that's buzzing right now. They're also making millions at the same time. CV, do you know how many people made money investing in the top 3 companies that own 5% of each one of the? I mean, it's pretty simple to see that there was more money, not only more money printed, but more money made in that short amount of time. There were more billionaires made in the medicinal area than ever before. I mean, it's just crazy how many billionaires were made during that time period. How much money was printed? Well, the most money that was ever printed in all of history was surpassed in a few-month period. A few months, they printed more money than they have ever printed in all of our lifetimes, and we just kind of walked past that and didn't go back to that. Like, wait, what? And now we're in the biggest debt we have ever been in, and it's multiplying to the point where it is now a hobby for people just to have a debt calendar or a debt clock on their desk. We are in la la land, and it's really getting bad. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. As far as the talk about the tacticals, that's what makes me nervous, because I don't think we're going to have a mutually assured destruction. Neither do the military and active members in the group. They don't either. They think it would be a couple tacticals, just enough to be so bad that the whole world is up in arms and people are calling for what we are saying is improbable. That nobody wants that. Just watch. After a tactical destroys a place and they show video, possibly, who knows, it could be AI video. But after they show you that video, I tell you what, in the future, you'll see everybody is red in the eyes. People are going to want to sign up for the military. People are going to turn their thing around. They're going to go, "I want to go and get them. I want to get back at these people." Something like that's going to happen. Then all of a sudden, everything's going to change overnight. That's what we're waiting for. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. And then, Dex, do you want to go over us? In official response, quote, we agreed to the ceasefire deal. Israel officials say proposal was changed.
Sure. So senior officials there told everyone that they had actually agreed to a proposal for ceasefire. But then it came out that no, they're actually, not from them, but from the other side, from the Israeli side, that no, there really wasn't any deal done. And now they're making the claims potentially that the T organization is just making that statement so that it makes Is look bad when they go in and start striking, by making it look like, hey, we agreed to a ceasefire and now you're hitting us. So that's what the sort of the Western spin, if you want to say that, on this. I'm not saying it's spin or not. We don't really know the truth. All we know is what's being said. And what's being reported from what they're saying. So the T group said, hey, we made a deal. We should have the ceasefire. And everyone else is saying, no. You didn't actually make a deal. And what you're saying isn't even the deal you made. or attempted to make. So that's where we stand right now. Aside from the fact that Israel's still going in, I mean, they've been working their way in through various tactics and different activities over the weekend and even through today. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But from this point of view, it looks like this potentially could be a setup to make it look one way. And given how divided the world is, and when you think about that, it's easy to say, oh well, everybody's divided in other parts of the world. It's not here. Well, no, it is right here. Look at what's happening in our universities. Look at what's happening in our streets over this topic. So anybody that's fueling this, whether it's the T group here fueling it, whether they're telling the truth or not, I don't know. But whatever side is coming out on this, and then whatever side on the opposite side, the Western side, the alliance side, whatever you want to call it, their position on it, it's just going to fuel this divide even greater, especially as the kinetic portions of this invasion ratchet up, which they are.
Now, when you look at what they did with media, so the same media that always has the White House's back, has all of the, it has a certain side, right? 99.9% of all of the media has the same view of things. The way that they covered what is going on over there, you of course have all of the youth, everybody else in one way. You've got all of these protests, you've got all of this going on. And you have put so much distrust in people, but at the same time, people don't trust the media, but yet believe them for something that they want to believe. It seems to me like everything right now is purposeful, even the distrust in the media, even the fact that they're showing certain things and not showing others. It seems to me like even the stuff with Israel and all of this, all of it it's right to plan. Like all of it is part of a greater, bigger thing that we don't know the whole plan. We're not seeing the whole plan. But what I'm trying to communicate is after this, Netanyahu and everybody else will be like, oh yeah, that was rough there for a minute, but yeah, we had to do it for this, right? Like that everybody is in on this. Everybody. And something massive is getting done right now. All of these countries are gathering. Everything is happening right now. And it's almost like from the inside out, America is also getting just torn up. And it's not just us. It's you in Europe. It's you in Canada. It's you everywhere. Everyone is saying the same thing. And regular people that have common sense that feel that something just isn't right for the last 5, 6, 7 years, everything has been changed from the top down. And when you go up to the very top of why all these changes are happening and happening so rapidly, there's only a few groups that are in the charge of it. There's only a few groups that are openly saying, yeah, we're changing this. And it affects every single country that they have touched. And all of those countries are just happen to have the same issues, the same protests, the same everything. And I'm not even talking about just this current thing. Like the farmers, the retirement age, the protests in France, the protests in Brazil, the protests in every country that this thing touches. And then you see the same kind of events in all of these countries, the same kind of issues with who gets picked to run their country. You see the same kind of power outages and mass blackouts. These things we've been covering for years. They keep happening, and it's like one country after the other. The same playbook being used everywhere. It's a left versus right thing. Doesn't matter what language you speak. It's an old versus young thing. It's this religion versus that religion, this color versus that color, that state versus that state, this language versus that language. Apple versus PC. I mean, they couldn't divide us in any more ways, to the point where people are going to just all of a sudden realize we've been manipulated through the entire thing. You think back in the 60s, before they had technology, before they had this technology that we are all glued to. There's not almost one person here that doesn't have one of these in their pockets connected to them that check it 1,000,000 times a day. Before this technology, they were experimenting on controlling people, on mass psychosis, on mass mind control. Before we had all of this, before we had phones, before we had all of the computer and technology. Now look at what's happening. It's all moving forward, people. This is the time that we've been talking about for a long time. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Let's do a quick roll call right after, again, a word about EMP Shield. This is an honest recommendation for you guys right now. The first thing that they would do if they attack the U.S. or U.K. or anything else is any military operation takes out the power and they take out communications. This would do both. Not only would taking out our power take out all of that, it would take out gas stations, water supplies. That's why they say 90% of people in the United States would perish in the first year of a grid down. And that's because we would not have clean water. If you want to protect your own vehicles, your own home, your own appliances, your own generators, you can do that by going and getting an EMP shield. This is a very simple yet extremely, extremely important device that will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. It's 10 minutes to put in your car, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground, and then bolted to the side of your engine block, you're good. As far as the generators, they work very similar fashion, and then of course the home version as well. Again, you can get that put in as well, and it will protect everything within 250 linear feet of where it is plugged in. That way your devices won't be fried for when the power does come back on or when you flip it over to your generators. As far as your car, if you work far from home, definitely a smart idea. Cars today are completely computerized, so again, if everybody had this, we would actually be fine. But we don't, and the government's not going to push anybody to do it, but they are doing it themselves. If you don't think this is an issue, then ask why the government buildings and all of the military, they are doing this. DOD, DHS, all of them, they're getting this protection. In fact, a lot of contracts have actually gone to EMP Shield from agencies like DHS and DOD, but yet they're not telling us to do it. Why? It's kind of stupid. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. You'll help our independent channel at the same time as protecting yourself. And they even make one for the Flex Tactical and the Flex Energy Flex 1500. So make sure to go check that out as well. That is the only solar generator, the Energy Flex and Flex Tactical, that you can get a EMP shield directly for. And then let's do a roll call. We've got B-Roll Beast. We've got Donald Massey. We've got Washington. I saw some Floridas in the house. We've got Texas. We've got all sorts of great people from let's see here, Idaho. We've got Ohio, OHIO. And we have, of course, Richard Browder, Ryan M., Three Horses Running, Randy Man. Thank you, guys. Thank you for those of you that remind people to press the like button. I never do, but it really does help. And honestly, I hate asking people to push the like button because it's crazy how it is something that literally everybody could just do. But when somebody asks me to like something, I'm going to go, no, I'm not going to like something because you asked me to like it. That's like saying, like, tell me you like me. But if you like the show and think it provides value, it does help us reach new people. Therefore, it helps you guys because then new people come in, you could meet more friends, and we could actually get our message out further. So I appreciate you guys pressing the like button. I never do the goals or whatever, but it would be cool if we could get to an amount. Okay? Thank you guys. We've got New Jersey in the house. Yeah, J-Pass says, or else. Yes, do it or else. Dude, I've heard some of the kids' videos my kids watch, and it will say, like, or you'll have 7 years of bad luck. Like, those videos, those kids' videos have like 4 million likes because there's kids that don't know any better, and they're actually thinking they're going to get cursed. That's so horrid. Like, how bad is that? Steve and Terry, what's happening? We've got Port Townsend, Ginger Snap. I think I helped drive a ferry float with my buddy for Port Townsend. Is that the Rose Fest, or which one is the Port Townsend parade? Short budget productions. What's going on? We've got Seeking Truth, making grilled cheese and listening. Well, awesome. Thank you for everybody that is in the warehouse or drinking your morning coffee to this or going to sleep to it. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Again, thank you. And some folks from Connecticut. Jennifer, nice to see you. Okay, and then let's go over to the IDF strikes Hamas terror targets in East Rafah. So they are striking in Rafah. Today, Dex, it was really confusing because there was a lot of coverage that was very contradictory. They were talking about the ceasefire. They were saying that there were strikes going on. Then you also see that they're evacuating people. Then you see ones that say that they're waiting. It's like, if this is going down how they say it's going down on half of the accounts, then we might be in some trouble here.
Most certainly. I mean, there's so many people that have put red lines on Rafah that have said, "Hey, if you continue, it's going to, sort of awaken the rest of the enemies across the Middle East." So, now we'll see what happens, because it looks obvious to me they've gone in. They started putting in the pamphlets, and as soon as they put the pamphlets in to tell everybody to get out, then we have the release that we just talked about a moment ago from the T organization saying, "Oh no, we agree." But then is saying, no, you're not agreeing to the terms. You're agreeing to something that didn't exist. And they said, we're still going in. So at this point, it seems like the progress has amped up from moving people out to actually going in and striking targets. And if you recall how they did this in the north, they typically would do a bunch of airstrikes. They would take out as many targets as they could. I guess high value targets, if you want to consider them that. However, they would place prioritization on that. And then once they've, done as much as they could do from the air, and they think it's safe enough, then they'll roll in with troops to do the actual, the dirty work, so to speak, of getting into the weeds or into the buildings and into the ground and finding the rest of the enemy. So that all is going to be progressing if this is happening the way it looks like it's happening right now.
And if you're unfamiliar, the 25 miles long, and from the maps, it almost is deceiving. This strip is 25 miles long. It is 25 miles, right? Yeah, 25 miles long. They ended up taking people, and there's about 2.2 million total. They put half of them into the other half. So then there was 2.2 million people in about a 12 or 13 mile area. Then they ended up further pushing it. Then they put 2.2 million in 1/4 of it. Then it was about to 1/8. So there's 2.2 million people in the area that usually has about 250,000 people in it. You can imagine how crazy that would be. What is 24? So in about a 3 mile area, there's 2 million people or something like that. I mean, that's just math. 24 divided by 8. I mean, that's insanity. So if this is going down how they say it's going down, and mind you, they're not letting people go. Egypt won't let people go in there. They won't let them go out anywhere else. So if this goes down how it is, how the media covers it will change a lot. The same media that is, puts the messages out there, the same TikToks, the same Facebooks, whatever goes out, it really will decide how people act about this. So I would be on a lookout for what kind of messaging is going out about this and how they portray it, how they write it. Careful writing, too. I don't think there will be AI articles about this. I think they're going to put all of their effort into representing this the way that they want to represent it. But the scary part is they did the leaflets. If they're striking, they're doing all of this. Of course, they're going to say, "Oh, the ceasefire didn't look the way we wanted it to," and I'm sure the other side would do it too. It was the same kind of thing we saw with Russia and Ukraine when they said, "Oh, we came up with a plan, and we'll actually, if you do all of this, then we'll completely pull out all of our troops." But if the requirements is you bow down to us, you give us all this, and you make sure that the terms are so outrageous that no one would ever agree to them, then nobody's going to agree. And both sides saying that means that nothing is ever going to move forward. This is going along a path that is unstoppable. And I think that a lot of people really need to get that through. Common sense says that this is just going to keep going. This isn't going to go backwards like everybody thinks it is. What is your opinion on that? Do you think that this is just all of a sudden going to stop one day, and then Russia is going to go back their own way? Hamas and Iran is going to go, oh, cool, we're good now. North Korea is going to say, yeah, we're going to put the reunification statues back up. And China is going to go, yeah, we're going to stop trying to get this whole, dollar replacement going. We're just going to stop all that. A World War III is going to decide everything. So I think this is literally red alert. I don't put that in a thumb or in a title unless I believe it. I think that this is red alert. It's not tomorrow. It's not today. I think in the next 5 or 6 months, we are going to see massive change. And I sure hope that I am wrong. But from the active and retired military groups, they believe that this is like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And the straw is actually a huge pipe, and that pipeline was broken a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. There's been a lot of things that have gone down. Macron accused of rolling out red carpet for dictator Xi, who is backing Putin's war. Once again, I've been pointing this out since before this. And it's true. Macron is back. So think about this. What are they accusing him of? If he is rolling out the red carpet, if Xi is who I think he is, which is kind of the leader of this whole thing, why would Macron be rolling out the red carpet? Well, what's the accusation there? That Macron may have somebody in his pocket, that maybe he's got, some sort of tie with China that nobody knows. And this is a NATO member, right? And again, if he is on the payroll or something, how would that change the perspective? Just hypothetically, if he's on Xi's payroll, or if he's in his pocket, or if they're actually tight behind scenes, what would that say about what's going on with NATO and all of a sudden France saying that they'll move in on Russia? I know some people would say, oh, that means that it's all, put together and it's all a play. But I think it shows that there's people higher than all of these countries at work. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Emmanuel Macron was accused of rolling out the red carpet to, quote, a dictator who is financially and diplomatically supporting Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, as Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, kicked off a two-way visit to France. Now, I want to point out before I go any further, who's rolling out a red carpet for China? Macron. Oh, wait, didn't we do the same thing? Hey, Dex, what did we do for Xi when he came here? We didn't do it for all of the other countries that came to the summit. Was that, the APEC?
Yeah, no, we cleaned up the entire city. We made sure that he had a proper route through so that they could take pretty pictures of his car, and we lined the streets with flags of his country, in our country. So Chinese flags waving for Xi as he came down the streets of San Francisco that were recently cleaned up, so we could make the best impression possible. We didn't do that for any of the other countries. It was the Asia Pac meeting or whatever, and there was a lot, like 25 leaders were coming in, but only he got the red carpet.
And this is areas that were dirty for like a decade. These are areas that had homeless problems, and they had several groups. There were groups that have been calling for the cleanup of that specific areas. There were neighborhood watches that were going to city council saying, why can't you clean this up? In 2 days before Xi got there, they're like, oh, we're going to pressure wash and clean the whole thing. They sterilized it just so Xi could drive down the road and have pictures of him in America being treated like royalty. They flew in. Some of these people, they spent money on flying in people. Supposedly, they flew people from other countries. We know that for a fact that they brought people in that were supportive of China to actually bring them with flags to wave Chinese flags in San Francisco. What is this saying about our freaking country right now? So we're all looking at Macron and we're pointing fingers that way, but we need to take the stick out of our own eye. Look at what's happening here. Look at the actions that are happening. Look at the culture moves that are happening, and it definitely seems artificial. It's not just like, oh, well, the times change, right? From the 80s to the 90s, the flock of seagulls to the perm. It's no, this is something else. This is like artificial, pushed on us overnight. And things changed over thousands of years. All of a sudden, they're like, nope, that's not how we think anymore. And then we're all supposed to be like, yep, we think like this, or you're canceled, or you have no career, or you have nothing. You can't work, you can't do anything. Nope, you're a bad person now because you don't believe in this. And by the way, there's 87 religions, they're all protected, but not yours. What? What is happening in this world right now? I can tell you, I think it's common sense. This whole conflict is going to rearrange the whole planet. And we're watching it happen. The French president, joined by Ursula von der Leyen, the European commissioner, met Xi Jinping for the talks at the Elysee Palace. Elysee Palace on Monday. Isn't it? That was one of the places that was mentioned, wasn't it? On Monday, amid a looming trade war between Europe and China. Even though China is super close, no limits partners with Russia. Russia mentioned Elysee Palaces. You won't be safe anywhere. You won't be safe at Capitol Hill, Elysee Palace, or even Downing Street, right? Saying France, this, you won't be safe there. Maybe they will. It's almost like it's like one of those things where they threw France in there so nobody would expect it. Like France hasn't been the big bad wolf ever, and all of a sudden since Xi met last year, all of a sudden now it's like they're going to be some sort of leader in Europe, and they're going to be the big, bad, tough Americans that, we'll take them out. They're threatening everybody, saying, oh, well, we got to be tough. Since when? Since the first visit? And why so many? Like, they don't even answer our calls, but France is like, hey, come over for dinner. Let's play some skee ball. What the heck? France is backing the EU inquiry into Chinese electric vehicle exports. These Chinese electric vehicles are going to be a huge, important part of our future. Just to let you know, this is a scary thing with what is happening with vehicles. Because these Chinese vehicles, we showed you this years before. It's going to be big news tomorrow. You're going to see this 2 years from now and go, oh, I remember them talking about that 4 years ago with the community here, right? You pay $35,000 for this car, or you pay $6,000 for the same features, same everything. Again, people will go, oh, it's made in China. But guess what? When inflation and prices of eggs are $12, $16, $25, you're going to want a $6,000 car when you're required to buy an electric vehicle. And then guess what else? China also controls and really almost has a monopoly on lithium right now. This is a huge deal. This is all about money. This is all about the restructuring, and China is trying to become number one. China. How long are they going to try? I don't think it's going to be too much longer. They of course will take the Chinese counterpart on a personal trip to the Pyrenees, the birthplace of his grandmother. That sounds really personal. Dex, doesn't that sound like a little personal? Like,
yeah, let's go see Grandma's house over the hill and through the woods.
It feels like they're gonna meet up at the gravestone or something, and or I guess the birthplace. They're gonna give hugs, and they're gonna, I don't know, they're gonna embrace. They're gonna look into each other's eyes and say, "No limits." They're gonna say, "No limits." What does it sound like to you guys? Mr. Xi said ties between China and France, and this is, again, the same China that's no limits, completely backing Russia, and France were, quote, a model for the international community. The same China that's been sending actual supplies and secret ships to North Korea and to Russia against U.S. sanctions and against NATO sanctions, it says, is a model for the international community of peaceful coexistence and a win-win cooperation between countries with different social systems. Mr. Macron told Xi that coordination with Beijing on major crises, including Ukraine, was essential, and urged fair rules for all in Europe-China trade. Is China saying, hey, we don't want Europe? We're not. Well, by the way, when we take over the world, we don't want to manage Europe. We don't want to manage that whole area. Is this like the man in the high castle where they're going to say, yeah, well, you can run that place because we don't want it. That's way far away. We just want everything over here. You and Russia can divide that to you guys' selves. That's what it seems like, right? And now it looks like Macron may be an opportunist here. The future, and look at this quote. The future of our continent will be very clearly depend on our ability to continue to develop relations with China in a balanced manner. Dex, did you hear this quote? Can I repeat this? The future of our continent will be very, very clearly depend on our ability to continue to develop relations with China in a balanced manner. It sounds like in 20 years, we're going to go back to this. This is a historic moment. That quote, our continent, what? So they need to kowtow to China for the safety of their continent? Is anybody reading this the way I'm reading it? Mr. Macron said at the start of the trilateral meeting attended by Miss von der Leyen. Von der Leyen me down and giving me the... However, Raphael Glucksmann, the French MEP and left-leaning European elected candidate, said Mr. Macron was making the same mistake with Mr. Xi as he did with Russia's Vladimir Putin, namely thinking he could charm his way into the autocrat's good books, whereas, quote, a trial of strength is all they understand. Well, France doesn't come close to China. Mr. Glucksmann is threatening to relegate the alliance of Mr. Macron into a humiliating third place in the EU Parliament on June 9th. And they're taking a step back from the U.S. This is clearly it's super clear what's going on here. Dex, how could it not be more obvious what's happening here? This is what I've been saying for years. There's one day after the next. It's vindication of all of the things that our community has been saying for years.
He has certainly been jockeying for this leader of the Europe position, if there is such a thing. He has been trying to position himself in a much greater level of authority amongst all the other countries, putting down the U.S. and now hobnobbing with Xi. It looks like it's too good to be true. Like you couldn't have written it so well. And he is, if this thing was all orchestrated or part of some orchestrated event over time, because this can't be all about brandy and EVs, right? I mean, that's what they say. Oh, well, they're not taking our brandy anymore, and well, we're not taking your EVs anymore, so we got to make that better now. So
it says, and look at this quote, you roll out the red carpet and you even invite Xi Jinping to a place dear to your childhood in the Pyrenees, an intimate place that is supposed to dress this special relationship that you dream of in the cloak of friendship. And as usual, you will justify such obsequiousness towards a dictator by saying that you have to be realistic. And when saying that the continent depends... Wait. Why does the continent over here depend on China over there? Is anybody asking that question? Why does Europe and the European... Why does this continent over here have to depend on China? On their relationship with China? Is he giving us a hint that China is going to be number one soon? That the U.S. won't? We're stepping back from the U.S.? We're stepping closer to China. Go look at the map of China since 1971, since they opened their door to capitalism, and what countries did more trade with the U.S. The U.S. used to manufacture. We used to build stuff here. Almost everybody here has either a dad or a grandpa that made stuff, that built stuff, that manufactured, that worked in warehouses, that made stuff at American rates. Whole cities were supported by these factories, the car industry, all these industry, logging industry, this industry, that industry, steel industry, this industry. It used to be we were manufacturing stuff. It was made in America. It was like, it was good. Now we don't make virtually anything. Everything you see on your desk probably has a made in China below it. And now they're kowtowing to them. They're being sweet with them. Not to mention Saudi Arabia, same thing. Here's the crazy part. Saudi Arabia, same thing. They literally rolled out a red carpet for China. They wouldn't answer our call at the same exact time when they were rolling a red carpet out for China. All the most important places are rolling a red carpet out for China and saying no to America. What happened in such a short amount of time that it just completely flipped? Unless somebody's on the inside screwing things up. What is going on here? Maybe somebody popped in and goes, whoa, something's wrong here. And maybe all the money and all the effort going into keeping that, put away is for a purpose. I mean, like, this is just nuts. I think it's super obvious. What do you guys think? If you disagree, let me be polite. Tell me why. You think are they right for doing this? And then Panama selects a leader pledging to restore lost economic boom. Dex, again, what happened here?
Well, there's some things he said or he's trying to do that I think are really important, at least unless he's just paying lip service. But we'll have to find out. But the Panama elected investor favorite, Jose Raul Molino, is now the new president, and he's pledged to revive the once stellar economy and crack down on lots of things that are going on there. Basically they tallied in everything and it's done. He's in. The other person, I believe, wasn't able to actually run because he was a fugitive now, and I don't know all the details of it. But the most important thing I think we should pay attention to here is one thing he said. And he said he'll shut the trails through the dense jungle region between Colombia and Panama. So that Darien Gap, all of those areas, he says more than 500,000 migrants, mostly Venezuelans, passed through this route last year, making Panama one of the most important transit countries for people hoping to reach the U.S. And he is pledging to shut that down. The other thing he said was he was also promised a full frontal assault on the drug trafficking, which I assume would go hand in hand with those routes. I'm going to make the assumption that he's referring to not just the typical cartel stuff, but maybe even the stuff coming from China that is destroying so many Americans. So I don't know if this is a good thing, if he really means it, or if it's just lip service. But it is one of the most critical points in that Darien Gap, where that bridge was, where we showed you they were building a bridge big enough to run tanks across. Coming across in that area in the Panama area down south, as you come in through the rest of the Central America, and below that you would come across the Darien Gap. So if he's saying he's going to do that, Adam, that's a big deal. But again, I don't know if it's just lip service.
But at the same time, is this the quote from Molina? We'll promote a government that's pro-investment and pro-private enterprise. Now, keep in mind, the Darien Gap right now, there is a column. They said a tank-wide column, a bridge. It's a really professional building out in the middle of nowhere. It is, nobody knows who's paying for it. And it's at one of the most crucial places for people to get across. Who is paying possibly hundreds of thousands, millions? It looks like a millions project for this bridge, this column to go across the Darien Gap. Who is paying for that? That will make it easier for not only people, but troops and even tanks to roll through Panama and to go all the way up through. Who's paying for that? Like, all of these countries that most Americans can't even point to on a map are all really important right now because something big is happening. Something massive is happening. It's like people didn't realize if you're going to take out number one, the most powerful country in the world, it's a multifaceted thing. It takes everything. Here's Panama. Here's the Darien Gap. Here's Darien National Park. You can't see it on maps, but so there's a path through it, right? They're building a massive, massive column bridge. For what purpose? Who's paying for it? Who's building this? Once you see pictures of it, you'll see it's like they're doing a full-on professional job of doing this thing here. What? And this is one of the main ways through Panama up through here to go and to get up here. If you were to take tanks right now, it would actually be a problem. It won't be when that column is done. That's one of the few places they say would be difficult for tanks and other things to get through. As far as the stuff that's coming through, that bad stuff, the stuff that you see, I mean, in the last 5 years, how many videos do you see now of every metropolis in the entire country of people just zombied out, sleeping everywhere? Heck, CV made it so much worse. And then where do they say that CV now? They're 99% sure where it absolutely came from and where all this happened. Well, it was actually spreading in the beginning. They were like, hey, let's do a huge community dinner and have everybody over. Government-funded dinner where they had thousands of people meet up, and then like, oh, yeah, by the way, fly to every country in the world. I was there. I covered that whole thing from beginning, and I called it. I said, why is this agency putting out graphs on what's going to change? And now you look back at that graph, and it's accurate to what happened. The entire world's economy just went, ksh. This is all happening right in front of our eyes. And then everything that makes America America, you have to essentially take every last thing that sets us apart and you have to delete it. Has that not happened? Name one thing super American that isn't being put into question right now. From morals to the majority to this to that to that to this to that to weapons to free speech to the right to bear arms. Every part of our country is being put into question right now, and they have done it so well that our own country is like, yeah, we don't want people to be able to speak. In fact, I'm going to shut up right now because I shouldn't even be speaking. I'm speaking opinions. I should shut up. In fact, everybody shut up. Let the government talk. Jeez, guys. Even if they can't talk without reading it, we should let them talk, and we shouldn't talk. And we should support terror cells. They're the good guys. Osama was a great guy. This guy's who we should be looking up to. Not Lincoln or any of these other guys. Let's tear those mofos down. Heck, I want to be spending yuan by next week, guys. Let's go. People have lost their freaking heads. It's just nuts. And I know all of you guys see this, but how many people do you know? Tell me in the chat. How many people do you know that are completely oblivious to what's happening worldwide? Let me know in the chat. Let's see here. Thank you, ATX1. OU still sucks. And then Samuel Turner. China must move on Taiwan this month. Oh, okay. Actually, sorry, that was an old one. Serendipity. Thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you for the support over on DLive. Q Tara, thank you for the diamond. I appreciate that. Kimbria. Kiro Essex, thank you so much for subscribing. Lanny from London, thank you for subscribing. We've got a couple of folks. We got a lot of people from London. Ecto1, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Many are unaware or they are lukewarm. Well, if you want to be honest, look at how many people can actually even pick out a place. And I know a lot of us too. The thing is, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, if you told me, where's Georgia, I would say in the middle of the country. I wouldn't know where Moldova was, or I wouldn't know where, I wouldn't know where Djibouti was. I would laugh and giggle. Doing this show and constantly learning about everything around the world, I know the world geography good, and I know not everybody's that great at it. But it's really scary when people don't know where the U.S. Capitol is, that our youth don't know what the president and vice president's purposes are. They don't know how to pump gas. They don't know how to write cursive. They don't know how to read a clock. They don't know how to go 5 feet away from a plug-in so their phones die. They know how to TikTok. I don't know how that talent is going to come into play later, but it's getting pretty scary. And I know there's a lot of people that are geographically challenged too for other reasons, but right now, how many people are just completely and utterly in the dark about all of this changing? And they think it's a good thing. They're cheering it on. They're saying, cancel that person, that author and creative, get rid of them. They said facts. They told the truth. They need to be canceled. I think it's nuts. At $2 million per minute, Treasuries mint cash like never before. Dex, this is just what I was talking about. Money getting printed like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when's it going to stop? It's just, I think they just say let the spigot flow. Just keep pumping it out. But at this point, everybody feels the inflation. We all know everything costs us a lot more. It's almost absurd in some regards, but on the other hand, what's the alternative? The alternative we know is, there's a lot of other things that could be done, but they're not going to do it. So then what's the alternative? What's the alternative of the things they would do? So, I think right now the only thing they can do is keep printing the money to see how long they can keep this big balloon inflating until it pops. And that's a scary thought, especially, given the way the numbers are rolling and given the way the amount of money that is, just being continues to be printed. Now, certain economic things will come and go. We've seen stocks up, then we've seen them down. We've seen gold up, which is, really a bad sign, I think, for when you look at the economy. It's maybe good for those of us that own gold, but not good for those that don't. And it's good for those of us in the prepping community because we prep with precious metals. We know that that's a sign of bad times when that's high value. So it gives us some insight. But yeah, this is not good. The way it just continues to flow at this rate, and the amount of $2 million a minute is what they're printing, and that's absurd.
And I'm just looking up current gold prices right now. Let's see here. 23.21, so it's still over $2,300. It got to a high of I want to say, did it hit 2,400? It was up there. It was nuts. And then Dex, why don't you? Let's see here. Let's go over Boeing and have you cover that as well. Boeing faces 10 more whistleblowers after two perish.
Yeah, so the second whistleblower perished under mysterious circumstances. So now they've apparently have 10, not perished, but 10 new whistleblowers, or at least that's what the number's up to now. So Joshua Dean, of 45, a former quality auditor at Spirit Aerosystems, which assembles fuselage sections for the Boeing, is one of the people who perished recently. I think we've covered him as well as the other one. The other one, I believe, was John Barrett, who had a different reason. So the first one died from major infection, or the second one that we just covered died from major infection. The one before had self issues that caused that. But now what they're saying is the number of people, and a lot of people were speculating that like the more people that are, mysteriously disappearing, if you want to use that term, the less people would whistleblow. But now they're saying, they can face 10 more that they're up to. So it just sounds like all of the people are coming out of the woodworks to announce that, they've seen issues. They're bringing to the table the different quality issues or the different stress points that they've seen in the company and why, and the decisions they've made that are basically making all of these space issues that we've seen with the planes, like doors popping open, bolts being, or rivets not being in position where they're supposed to be, plane landing gear falling off, like literally collapsing, and the plane is like half cocked and doing a almost belly slide, to all sorts of things that are happening now. Couple that with all the strangeness of people flying now and how they behave. That's another oddity in of itself. But I think Boeing's really at a critical point now where they're going to have a hard time recovering from this, and it's obvious, and it's going to be even harder when you have 10 whistleblowers all at the table, sort of pointing at you, I think it's going to be hard for them to justify that what they've been doing has been fine and that nothing's wrong when everybody sees these problems out in the open, and now they see all these people coming forward to point the finger. So I think that's a hard thing for them to overcome. It's important for us to understand because they're a huge company. They're huge. Not only do they just build airplanes for us to fly around in, which they actually own more than 50% of the market share for our commercial airlines here in America, but they also do a whole lot of military and space, as well as a lot of other military industrial complex projects too. So to what extent does this lack of quality or these problems bleed into the rest of their business? I think a lot of people are going to be asking, and I know a lot of people can probably maybe hurt from this.
Now, I was trying to find, there was a really good thing that was put together of all of the military industrial complexes that merged down to just 5. Here's an alternate angle on this whole thing, because what the media portrays to us, and honestly, the media could be lying about that too. There could be an op that's going on right now. Let me put a different angle on this. So here's a good example. Here's PG&E, because I don't have the other one. But here's the thing. There's all these smaller companies that start out, they get bigger, and then they end up merging down. So P&G, right? Gillette, Tampax, Pampers, Puffs, Febreze, all these companies ended up merging into one, right? And then you have this one company that's at the top of all of these products. Well, with Boeing, they had all of these smaller companies merge up to them. Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, all of these companies ended up merging just down to like 5 or 6. Here's another thought. The doors falling off, all of this stuff happening overnight, and then these people stepping out, and then the people mysteriously perishing. What if it's made to look like that, to where the average person is going, yeah, they knocked them off? I mean, it's so obvious. You would think any company that was just meaningless, the tiniest bit smart would not knock off a second person. I'm not saying they did, right? They didn't. And I'm giving them the different angle right now. Don't worry. You guys are going to be good after this. Yeah, I'm reading the teleprompter. No, I didn't. Oh, I didn't mute. Sorry. Boeing is completely not responsible for the perishing of these people, obviously. But here is a different angle that actually says that. What if Boeing actually does have, because I'm from Seattle, and everybody here knows somebody who has worked for Boeing or has been worked. My mom and both grandparents at one point worked for Boeing. My mom was a Rosie the Riveter back in the day. Rest her soul. So everybody knows somebody that worked for Boeing in the warehouse or this or manufacturing or some part of it. A lot of engineers, this and that. What if Boeing still does have a structure that somewhat is controlled by a few people? They don't want that. They want something that's merged down to nothing. What if Boeing, after all of this, ends up merging with Northrop Grumman or merges down to even a smaller thing? Wouldn't it be great if all Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, this and that, somehow they had some excuses to merge down to just one company? Why we don't want monopolies is because they are horribly powerful. The contracts right now as they go, the military gives their contracts to like one of 4 companies or one of 5. And then most of these contracts, they're like, well, we'll do half with Boeing, half with Raytheon, another half with them. They basically give it to all of them, right? And then they'll give a huge contract to Boeing, but then they'll equally give a huge contract to Northrop and Grumman. What if this is the door falling off? Like, that just doesn't seem, it almost seems too much. And then the people perishing under mysterious circumstances, it almost seems like they're almost, and then the CEO stepping down, all of this happening all at the same time. It's like, what if there is some semblance of like there's only a couple people or one person or this or that in charge, and they actually do have a say, and this big conglomerate group is like, well, we don't like these guys, we gotta make it so it's not so independent. I don't know. It's just a hypothetical. It made me think of it the other day because it's so obvious. It's so obvious to the regular person. It's like, oh, we all got this mystery figured out. They're knocking the people off that are talking crap. But what if that's all part of it too? Dex, go ahead.
Well, their stock has taken a hit, not that huge, but probably over the last year it's down. It's not as low as it was a year ago, but over the last year it's quite a bit down. But you're spot on in the sense that if they take a massive hit, which these military industrial complex companies over the long haul, they don't usually go down. They go up. They keep growing. It could be such that if this turns out to be such a bad thing, like if some major airline issues happen and there's some major loss of life, or they have a big failure in space or some big failure with the military, although I think that would be more covered up than unless they're trying to throw them under the bus, and you see their stock plummet, that would be very hurtful for a lot of people that own it. But that's the opportunity for somebody either smaller like General Dynamics to come in and buy them, or somebody larger like Northrop or Raytheon or even Lockheed to then swoop in and try to make an acquisition. I think that would go back to that whole will the government allow a larger conglomerate, so to speak, of a military industrial complex, or is that where they want it to go? So, but yeah, very interesting to see what comes of their fate. They have taken a bit of a hit, but it's not like if you look at them on the long haul, all time, they're not as high as they used to be back in 2019. They were really, really high, but they're nothing like they were in 94, 2004, 2014. They look like any other military industrial stock that just will always grow. It'll ebb and flow, but it'll always grow.
Now, it's Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. Look at it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 companies. And then you look to the left. Those are all the companies that they acquired or merged into Boeing. They are so small you can't even see the writing. Even when you zoom in, you can't see it. So all of these merge down to just 5. And people don't like that. I don't know. That's almost morally wrong. How many companies just got gobbled up by these monsters, right? And then they all work together. They all work and do collaborations. This is like, it's like if PewDiePie and a few of the other largest YouTubers just like ate all of the other YouTubers. They're just giants. And you only watched 5 channels anymore. That's all there is. It's kind of reverse of what we used to have. We used to have two channels that we'd watch, or 5 channels that we watch. Now we have 10,000. It's reverse with entertainment. But with military industrial complex, it's shrink down to the minimal amount of structures in power. And then those 5 are easier to control. It seems kind of crazy to me that many companies shrunk down to that. Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. If you don't have a backup power supply, this is a recommendation for solar. Again, as far as gas-powered generators, highly recommend that as well. But if you already have a gas-powered generator and if you would like to go to the next level, highly recommend going with an Energy. I don't think that there is a solar generator that is modular and expandable that even comes close to the quality or to the reliability of this one. If they come close as far as the features, then they are most likely made by a company that, if you go look, that it's a company that's straight up a front for one of those countries that they keep rolling the red carpet out for. So make sure you know, because again, the same country is being accused right now of having backdoors and being in all of our infrastructure and waiting for the right moment. I definitely wouldn't go, oh yeah, I know all that, but I'm going to go buy a generator from them. No thanks. This generator, on the other hand, they just won the STTR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army, so these are going to be shipping out. As far as reliability, the Army doesn't care if they're pretty. They don't care if it takes a selfie. They care if it turns on, and turns on every time. It is expandable up to 96 batteries. It is a steel frame. It has 1,500-pound latch system. These things are extremely easy. Just click, click, and then you can change them around, add batteries, add mods. The mods work like Lego bricks. They just fit in, and then boom, you've got a different generator. You've got a generator with UPS. You've got a generator that can take 12 panels instead of 4. Now, if you don't know, you're like, oh, well, I don't have solar panels. You can actually charge it from your wall and have it as a battery bank and have it just ready to go. But solar panels are super easy. It's like Christmas lights. Imagine getting Christmas lights that you put out in your lawn, and then if you have more than one panel, you daisy chain them. You plug another one in, one cord goes to the other solar panel, that solar panel goes to the solar generator. It's really that easy. Then you'll be gathering power even when you're using your regular power, whatever else. You can have these out, have this storing power, and then when your power goes out, you can even set up to where it automatically switches over to this. It's an amazing, amazing system. I represent this one because I believe that this will work through thick and thin. If SHTF happens, you don't want one that's going to fry out or turn off the next day. The only downside of this, I think the only downside, and I've used all of their I've used the K2, I've used the X2, I've used the Flex 1500. I have all of these. The only downside is the weight. And the weight is because they are fighting over lithium right now. And by they, I mean the whole industry. It is, again, something you're going to wait anywhere from 4 to 6 months for. But I would highly recommend getting your name on that list now, because generators like this they're built right and they're going to last. Or you could go get one that will show up at your doorstep on Monday, but come Tuesday when SHTF happens, will it still work? That's the big question. For something, a big investment like this, you want something that's going to work and work every time, and that you can brag about without one of your friends going, yeah, but is it going to work on Wednesday? Is it going to fail, or is it going to burn out? Is it going to start smelling like, burnt plastic if you put something into it? This thing is set up for the future. So again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. I highly recommend it, and I think that people will end up thanking us even when just their normal power goes out for a storm, or when they take it to work with them and use it for, putting a fence in or something. You can power your power tools or charge your stuff with it. marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. There's not one affiliate that I have that I don't believe will either save a life, make a life more comfortable, that will make you happy during a disaster, or make you comfortable during a disaster. So go check it out. And again, it helps us and it helps you. And then the Boeing Starliner is hours away from launching 2 astronauts on the long-awaited mission. Here's what's at stake. So Dex, why don't you continue going over all of the Boeing stuff? This is pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, this is their chance to shine, and I think I'm trying to see if it actually happened, because it should have happened about an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago, and it looks like it was postponed. I think. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm trying to get real.
Maybe the door fell
update.
off.
Yep, Boeing crew space launch postponed for a safety check. Go figure. maybe some whistleblowers came out on the field with the whistles.
They're having a safety meeting. The guys that put this together smoking a bowl behind the barn.
Yep, but this is exactly the kind of thing that is sort of on the line for them. And could you imagine if some catastrophe happens with them with a space launch, or with any of their more modern planes that are out now? If we see a major event go down with them, it's just gonna snowball this already horrible thing that's happening to them, or I say happening to them, but that they've done to themselves is what it looks like, and it's going to make it even worse. So now everybody's sort of paying attention to what's happening to Boeing. Are they going to pull themselves out of this rut, or are they going to continue to have quality problems? And look at here, let's scrub the mission. It was supposed to launch at 10:34 Eastern time. So that's more than 2 hours ago. So it's 3 hours ago. It's now the next day. So yeah, they scrubbed it.
Yeah, well, I get why. Especially they didn't want a disaster, or like SpaceX calls the explosions a slight anomaly. You don't want something like that happening right now. So I get it. But for it to be the cancel for a safety check, it's like, yeah, I bet. And then, hi, Mar family. Glad I finally caught live. Keep up the great job. Chow Kareen 3. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for supporting independent. I appreciate you. Dex, go ahead.
I was just going to say that whole anomaly thing, that's in like the space world. Like they use that. It's not just Elon. Even though we thought it was crazy because that's what they said, but apparently that's their terminology.
Well, it was a slight anomaly, and what we're referencing is when there was a pod that I think it's the Dragon pod. There was a pod that they are going to use for the human manned missions to the ISS. Back then, they were testing it, and they had it. Mind you, there was no video of it. They said, "Oh, we had a slight anomaly." That's what was put out, the official press thing. Oh, it didn't work, and we had a slight anomaly. Well, somebody leaked the video, probably somebody anti-Elon leaked the video, and it shows a camera facing this pod thing, and it just gets blown to smithereens. It doesn't exist. It got blown into pieces of dust, and everybody was making fun of it because it was like, that's a slight anomaly. We wouldn't want to see, a major anomaly or a disaster. If that's a slight anomaly, gosh, wouldn't want to see a bad one. And then Pentagon.
What do you think the door plane bursting open mid-flight is?
Well, I don't know, but that sounds like a sabotage. That sounds to me like something happened. Like, I don't think Boeing's that bad. Maybe that's why I thought, man, maybe this is corporate espionage. Or corporate sabotage. There's somebody out there, and we also went down the road. Could it be Xi's country? Xi is now, remember, and I thought of this before I realized and knew about all those contracts. We then covered China they started making the 727 or their carbon copy, probably hacked IP version of their Boeing plane. They are going to get in the market, and who knows? People like France or countries like France are probably going to be like, "Hey, let me order 80. You guys are awesome. Come over and let's play skee ball and visit my grandma's grave." With countries like that, I bet that they're going to do pretty well. And then they're going to be like, "Yeah, if you buy some planes, we'll also give you a discount on our new electric cars." Also, other countries in Europe, and in Europe, you guys can attest to this too. You can back me up on this. They keep praising China on how good they are with the environment. But I'm sorry, with all the nasty stuff that comes out of China and all the horrible knockoff companies out there that are making these bad, horribly unsafe things, I can't possibly see how they are the leader. They might have some stuff that they let you see, kind of like North Korea's grocery stores, cardboard cutouts of the thing. How could they be ahead of everybody in the environment, right? They say it's because they don't have any bureaucratic red tape that they have to cut. They can just cut, they can get their footprint down or whatever. How are they the world's leaders? I think it's a bunch of BS, but what do you guys think? Let me know. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and final thought, like, this is supposed to be a crewed launch, and it's the first time this thing's ever gone up with crew in it. And would you want to be, an astronaut in Boeing or in, SpaceX right now, as far as a first launch? I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to be in either one, but right now I'd be really worried about being on the Boeing one, just given everything that's in the public eye right now.
I would definitely check the door once or twice. I would be like OCD. They'd be like, "Why are you turning the light switch on and off?" I'm not. I'm just checking. Pentagon's Replicator selects AeroVironment's Switchblade 600 is its first buy. Speaking of contracts, the Pentagon said Monday that AeroVironment Inc.'s Switchblade 600 loitering munition was the first weapon to publicly be confirmed to be part of the Replicator Initiative. What a name, right? Which aims to rapidly deploy thousands of military drones. We talked about this. What was it? Was that like last year, Dex? The Replicator program, the Replicator.
Yes. Yeah, the Replicator program is the program they want to get as many drones built in a short amount of time as possible. These small drones, not like the big Reapers, but these little bitty ones, because obviously the term replicator they can reproduce them and get tons of them, probably as a means to catch up and fight against China's drone swarms.
One of my buddies has done contracting work. He can program programs to program programs. They're talking about having this is separate but connected because it is regarding drone manufacturing. They want to come up. This was at one of the conferences last year or the year before. They want a machine that can mass produce drones, do everything incorporated, and they want to put it on the back of a truck. So say you have 100 drones, it would basically produce ammunition. These are, the computer systems would be packaged. This is their thought. They would have a massive pallet of the computer systems. They would have a massive pallet of all of the supplies. The machine would be a I'm using the word replicator, but it would be able to put together these drones as they use them. So as they were destroyed, this truck, self-contained thing that could be on the back of a military truck, is mobile, can go anywhere, could then make these kamikaze drones on the spot. They also have a model that launches out of a tube that it could actually make it itself. So they want the robot that makes that on the spot wherever they need it. And I didn't really understand why, but it makes sense, because if you're shipping the pre-made drones, it takes up a whole lot more space. For say 1,000 drones, you might have to pull up with 40 trucks. For 1,000 drones that are put together, or they're unassembled, then you could fit it all into a very small area. Then this thing would make. So they're coming up with the programs to make it. And here's what scares me about this, is you have robots making robots that then will have either an AI or some sort of target-based thing. And the whole debate now is that they're putting artificial intelligence and decision-making drones, we covered this, into these drones. They're just short of announcing full on that they're putting facial recognition in this, and I bet you they already have that. I guarantee it. But so say it would decide, just like in the movie, what was that? The Eagle Has Fallen, or whatever that movie was with Russell Crowe, or whatever the other guy, I always get confused, where they launched out of 40 missile tubes, this drone launch thing. It picked out all of the Secret Service agents in that movie and left the Russell Crowe character, Gerard Butler, sorry, I always get them confused, Gerard Butler alone, and it framed him, made it look like he wasn't targeted. Those exist in real time, and now they're making them. It also reminds me of Three Body Problem, where if you've seen that show, there's a part in the very first episode, so this isn't a spoiler. He asked the guy what he thinks about this brand new state-of-the-art. He asked a very high-up Navy official. He goes, "What do you think about this brand new, super high-tech naval ship?" And he's like, "Well, it has 50,000 tons. It carries this much fuel. It has this many weapons on it." He goes, "I don't want the pamphlet." He goes, "What do you think about it?" And the guy ends up going, "Well, you want to know my real opinion? I would take the money that instead of building one of these, I would build 100,000 drones." And that statement right there could not be truer right now. These drones are the future of warfare. It is no longer, we've got the biggest, baddest carrier, because that big, bad carrier is useless when you've got 10 million drones coming your way. And it could be literally that exaggeratedly crazy. If you've got 10 million drones and they all have explosives packed on them, you can have the best defensive system in the world. If you're one or two ships, you may not be able to hit all of them, and then they take you out. That's what's scary about these. They're so cheap to make. They are now they've got it to the point where they would be able to replicate them on the spot, or even have them, mass produced in a way. And they're already behind. China's been doing this. China has its first autonomous AI and self-autonomous carrier. They may not have 11 carriers or 12 carriers like we do, but they do have an autonomous carrier. That's insane. So if every person on that ship perishes, and this is a big ship, it can then launch. It can not only go to its location that it needs to go to, it can also then launch autonomous drones from that carrier. That's terrifying. especially looking at all of the other information that's going on right now. If you look at that, you're starting to go, okay, yeah, this is getting pretty nuts. The Switchblade 600 gained notoriety because of the Ukrainian military is using it to strike Russian troops. In an effort to enhance the U.S. military's autonomous and uncrewed capabilities, Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks kicked off the $1 billion replicator idea in August. The 2-year program aims to integrate drones and technological innovations into defense programs at an accelerated pace. Like they're doing it yesterday. It's happening like this. Boom, 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 boom. So they're trying to catch up to China. And I do part of that is because of the leak that is people got information out of China that they're mass producing. They've turned in factories, and this also goes back to what was happening during CV. People thought everything was closed down. The electronics sector of parts of the city were shut down. Some believe that they were actually turned into war-making machines during that time period. That they were making jets, planes, military planes, military boats, Navy boats. They're now the largest Navy in the world. And that they were making weapons that entire time. They were turning factories that made Q-tips, they turned them into factories that were making weapons during CV when the world was shut down. Think about that. If that is true, think about the origins of it. How everybody else was shut down. How do you get ahead? If the rest of the world is shut down, you have people on the inside that help everything shut down. You have people up above, all of that. You're partners with a group that, I don't know, say even Australia question and go, hey, why is this the only group that can go in and inspect? Can we have our own group go in? We're going to tear off your whole country for even asking. It seems to me like there's a lot of things coming together, and by the time they come together, it's going to be too late. But you can kind of see through the patterns of what's happening that these drones are going to be very important in World War III. The replicator program is behind. That's just my opinion, though. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And especially military folks, again, let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Tell me, teach me, help me learn if I'm totally off. And then 50-foot sea creature washes up on Delaware shore, but rescue proves too treacherous. 50-foot sea creature. Dex, this is wild. I just watched a video on, it was like an egg thing. They thought it was like a kraken egg. But what was this?
So this was a 50-foot subadult fin whale. And it's rarely seen near the shore, and they're trying to understand why it came to the beach. Now, normally it says typically if something was really wrong and it was having a hard time breathing, then it would go to the shallower waters and head towards the shore so that it could not have to spend its time down deep and go up for air, and it would make it, that would be a sign of trouble. But the real issue is, what was the trouble? The whale was extremely emaciated, which they think says it was some sort of underlying condition. But this is something that you don't normally see, and that's why it got everybody's attention. Unfortunately, the waves and where it had beached into the shallow area was too treacherous for, or at least not sturdy enough for the people that were there, the specialists, I guess, that were there, marine biologists, et cetera, to sedate. They were going to sedate the whale because it's obviously going to be perishing, and at least give it a better path out. They weren't able to do that, so they had to just sit there and wait till it perished. And now they're doing a recovery to take it and actually go investigate what was wrong with it, like what caused it to, get this sick and come onto shore. So that's what they want to do, and I guess maybe we'll hear. I don't know if it's one of those things that really makes the news and gets published out, but if there is something strange going on, I know we have talked quite a bit about all the things that are happening that are odd in the ocean, and the changes that are undergoing in the ocean that sometimes cause animals to beach, sometimes cause them to do strange things, go in circles, sometimes it causes them to perish. Something's going on for sure.
And I have an inside scoop. Somebody I've known practically my whole life is actually got quite a bit of coverage nationally for their discoveries. So we're going to keep that a surprise. But what they're finding out about the ocean, specifically in Florida, is absolutely terrifying. as far as it's not related to anything getting hotter. It's related to what's going on with the ocean and what could be going on, what could be happening sooner. It could end up spreading from off of Florida to farther. Kind of scary when you think of 70% of our oxygen comes from the water, so the ocean. Like Dex said, fish swimming in circles, animals, mass die-offs. Heck, whales like this is extremely rare. It's super, super weird. And there's more of it happening. It keeps going. Sharks, especially, and some of it connected to possibly even pole shift, like the hammerhead shark, which navigates with their natural compass. They actually have electromagnetic navigation. They're navigating via our North Poles. They are all screwed up. They're going in circles. They're beaching themselves. They're ending up hundreds of miles away from where they should be. There's a lot of instances like this. At the same time, we've talked about things like the windshield theory. Obviously, people have talked about the bees. Bees are dying, disappearing. They worry about that because our whole ecosystem would fall apart. And then the windshield theory is where, have you drove anywhere lately where you used to have tons of bugs on the front of your car? Heck, they used to have bras to shield the bugs away from your window. Then you don't really need them anymore. You have less bugs on the front of your car. Now, some people commented last time we mentioned that, oh, I live in this state or this. There are places, but there are also places where people, like Dex, you drive by through Florida, you used to have to stop at the gas station to wipe things off of the windshield, whereas now you don't. That's not happening just in the United States. That's happening globally. People have noticed this. Look up any country, any state, and say the bugs or insects are disappearing, and there is coverage of it. In-depth coverage. So what the heck is going on? Is this why, Zuckerberg's building bunkers, is $270 million bunker, and is this why Elon Musk is trying to terraform Mars? We don't know. Is it why China is making a base on the far side of the moon? It's all up in the air. It's just not on your windshield. Ciao, Karin. Thank you again. Thank you for the support. ATX, Nevitz, Sarah. Thank you. Chanel Beveliqua. Samuel Turner. Thank you. Sweating Ministries. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. Gunpowder Productions. Carol, Tosha, Terry Quinn. Hopefully you're doing well and you are blessed today. BNB, Donald Massey. Thank you so much. Stephen Click, Resistance Homesteading, Liz W, and Genius by Birth. Again, thank you guys for all of your support this week. Appreciate you. And up to the next situation, speaking of the cough, could the bird cough be the next CV? That's a big question. Dex, do you want to go over this?
Certainly. So it's coming out of, I guess, a lot of different places, but in early April, the cat over here in Georgia had notified the public that an individual in Texas had actually came down with the bird version of this thing that's coming out. And they're talking about how, especially as much as we've talked about it moving from animals to different animals, even I think the other day we talked about one of the first dolphins. It's been in seals. It's been in lots of other animals as well. Beef and chickens are obviously very important to us, but now they're discussing the notion that if this thing continues down the path it's headed, that it could quite possibly be the next sort of event. Now, that's what they're putting out there. This is coming from Forbes, so I less want to dive into the details of this specific type of illness, because we've talked about it enough. You guys know what it is. Unless you've got your head in the sand, you've probably heard this because it's happened to lots of different things. Why are they telling us this is the real question. And why are they putting this out in Forbes? Why are they saying that this could be the next CV? And I think that's what's the concerning part, is the messaging around this. And are we going to continue to watch this expand and grow? And is that what they want, or is that what's really happening? And I'm not going to suggest one or the other. At this point, it's not my position to do that. But I will look at this and sort of say it's alarming when you see major large media outlets like Forbes or someone else start to put a headline like this together and start to make a message like this, given the state that we've been in the past with this, and given the position we're in right now this year with what's coming up. And I think that should be on the forefront of everyone's mind.
I kind of want to go back to the Economist cover and see if there's anything regarding birds. Yeah, Forbes putting this out. It just makes you think, is the messaging there? There was very similar messaging before in 2019. I know this because we were covering it going, this is really weird. We think that this might happen. It's really odd. They keep talking about this. They're doing these exercises. They're doing these tabletops. And we told you, get prepared for a possible event like this. To the point where we even said, hey, it looks so much like this. 4 or 5 months before this happened, one day we put an affiliate link up that was like, hey, you guys might want to stock up on just disposable face coverings. Mind you, I know there's a whole big debate afterwards, but in the beginning, everybody didn't know what was going on. Everybody needed them, and nobody could get their hands on them. We got a lot of thank you notes from people that basically said they stocked up on them before. We had that link up for one day. People say, "Oh, you think that there's going to be a big bad thing that comes? Oh, you're crazy." 3 months later, I put in all the thumbnail. You can go back in time and look. We told you specifically. We showed you the graphs by the W and the H and the O. We said, "Hey, look at this. This is really weird." I covered that from the first day, from the first patient in Bellevue. I went there. I knew it was going to be big. This, I don't feel that. So I guess in my gut, I don't feel like we're going to have another cough. I think that the next thing is the conflict. I think the conflict and a power down is the next thing. But I wouldn't put 100%. I would still prepare as if this is a thing, because if the messaging continues like this, then I would pay attention, because it has kind of been in the background for a while now. I almost thought the messaging was identical in 2023 going into 2024. We had another tabletop exercise that this one would affect the young people, that it would catastrophic contagion. That one, that was same people that ran the 2019 one. That one, there were signs of that, and then there were also messages in media 2023 going into 2024, or the beginning of 2023, that the crematoriums were overflowing in Xi's country. That's when I thought maybe that would happen again. But I haven't seen any of that since then, and I haven't heard anything from any of our groups. So I don't know. I don't think this is going to be the way, because I think too many people would doubt it. Even if it was real, so many people would doubt it, that it just wouldn't, it would be a disaster in itself, because nobody would believe it, even if it was real. And by the way, I do believe one day we will. These things exist. The Black Plague could hit or something modern day, or we could have super antibiotic resistant bugs that pop up, which will pop up. I mean, they say it's going to happen. That's just it's a part of life. And then off our shores, this was super weird. So awesome. Dex found, and I do believe this. Yeah, the whole mirrored part. Yes, it's that building. Look at that, Dex. The Hubs Hall is exactly what you see in the video. That's what you see. It's not this building, because I kept looking at it and go, yeah, it could be that one. It's this one right here. Hubs Hall. Dex, did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, this is where we tease you and say, go over to Marfoogle News and watch the video. There was possible mine detectors. The person who really made it go viral, everybody questions their stuff, and for somewhat good reason, because they just post like the second it comes out, and a lot of times it frankly does need to be corrected. But I also think people look at people like that and automatically judge them. That person gets community notes on every one of their posts regardless, and some of the community notes are silly. First of all, I thought community notes was a great idea until I noticed Now, a lot of people are saying if you get community noted, a lot of those posts on Twitter get demonetized. I'm not personally monetized over on X, but as far as I didn't know that they're demonetizing people if there's a community note. When if you look at the community note on this video that shows a possible torpedo-launched test, maybe the test of a torpedo-launched mine detector, or it could be a sea mapper, or it could be a environmental, it looks like a torpedo. This device washed up on the beach, and the people that were recovering it had a laptop. One was a diver, which makes sense for either commercial or military. And they were saying, don't film this. You can't film this. And they're saying, hey, don't, please, I don't want to explain to my boss. Like, I can't make you go, but stop videotaping it. It was weird. The question is, these same kind of drones, exact same kind of drones, outfitted the exact same way, are also used to detect mines off our coastline. Now, if there are mines on our coastline, and if we're currently searching these, and even having torpedo-launched mine detectors being launched, and they're washing up on the beach, that might say something. Were these somebody else's mine detectors? That's another question. Did you know that some of these Remus 600s were actually outfitted and sold to other countries' decks? That was one angle we did not go down. What if these are somebody else's mine detectors? That's kind of spooky. So we talked about that over on the other channel. Dex and I debated for... Dex was up more on the side of this is probably, maybe it's just commercial, or...
Well, I think it's research, but I'm not sure. And I say research, like prototype products, like they're building something for potentially for the military. We just don't know.
There's more evidence that it probably is.
I had another thought as I'm watching this playback over and over again. Happens to be on my screen. The guy with the wetsuit was there, and if you look at the sand and you look at the water and the water level, that sand is wet, way up above where they were. So the water, the tide has gone out tremendously over time. I bet he was there earlier dealing with this when it was under the water, and that's why he was in a wetsuit. It was probably, like they were saying, washed up on shore because something was wrong. And he was probably in, because it's the Pacific Ocean's cold. You usually wear a wetsuit over there. So he was probably in the water, and what we're seeing now is as the tide recessed, or he may have drug it in. But at the same time, like you said, this thing is so heavy, you can't carry it. Like maybe 4 people could carry it, but 2 people aren't carrying it. And I don't see any tracks in the sand where some sort of mechanical, cart came out there and dropped this thing off in the middle of the beach either, right? So it had to come up, and it didn't come this far up shore because those 2 drag it. There's no lines in the sand that they drug it up there. So I think it receded. I think he was originally in the water.
And the water receded so fast that they were basically stuck. It's 600 pounds. It's 530 pounds, and the military version is even heavier. Actually, never mind. There is a version of the Remus 600 that is actually over 600 pounds. And it has extra stuff for mapping. So if it was the research one, either way, the reason why this was a big question is the same reason that the gentleman on Twitter was asking, is these are already, they were prototyped back in 2019. They found that and said, well, it's 2024. Are they still testing it? Actually, yeah, it totally makes total sense too, because they would be testing new technology on the same platform. That same design it's torpedo launched. Now, mind you, the regular one is the same exact shape. Good reasoning Dex had is the reason why they're the exact same size as a torpedo is because it works. It's efficient. And if you're building a modular system, then you want it to have as many uses as possible so that the military can buy it and so can mom and pop researcher off of Florida. You want it to be able to do all of it. But think about that. These are really cool drones. They can do everything. They're like submarines, but they can be launched out of a torpedo tube. They can detect nuclear weapons, according to one comment. So it's spooky. Is there something going off of our shore? And here's another creepy part. Nobody mentioned. That guy didn't mention nobody else. What if this was either stolen or IP stolen, like it's a Chinese version of our exact Remus 600, which all of the designs are public, and they're purchasable. They could have purchased it, painted it gray. Is that a mine detector of somebody else's country? That was another question. Trying to fish out where our mines are. Dex, go ahead.
And it was powered on. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't think we said this in the other video. There's blinking. A light flashing on the back of it. Yeah,
so it's and from the Hydroid, one of the companies that makes it, I believe, they said that indicates that it is transferring data. So it's and that makes sense. The guy's got his laptop out. It's definitely got Bluetooth, that's for sure. But if you want to go watch that video, you can see the actual video over on Marfoogle News and what we were talking about. And some people will go, oh, who cares? We care. I care. I want to know everything that's going on off of our coastlines, especially now. Whether it be research for something natural, and by the way, after something our president just said, I'm even more inclined to think like, what kind of research? What kind of environmental stuff? What are they doing at the bottom of the ocean? Especially after threats of a 1,500-pound or a 1,500-foot wave coming from a underwater nuke. It makes you wonder, is there a bunch of those out there waiting for that or watching for that? So make sure to go check out that video. Again, it's great. And then as well, if you haven't already, if we've been talking about as far as what happens in an SHTF, go check out Jace Medical. Our recommendation as far as if you need to get yourself some antibiotics. As far as they have emergency antibiotics, you can go there to learn more, but you can actually get a Jace case, which has a bunch of different, basically essentials, including emergency antibiotics in a handy case. You can go get that. You get a certified board certified doctor that you actually do a telehealth appointment with, and then you can get it right away. Also, there is something called Jace Daily, which is essentially a 12-month supply of your medication. Now, obviously, you can't do this with stuff like, controlled substances and things like that, but you can for very important medications. If you have something you take every day or on a daily, there's a good chance that you could actually get a backup supply. This is good for, say, if you're traveling out of the country for a while, or you're doing this or doing that, or for SHTF. So, and then you can rotate that supply because they do it so where you have a year, and then I believe it continues. So you always have a year of backup supply of that medication. If everything goes to crap, you'll be good for a year. Go to marfugglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll have to go there to learn more. Again, they have all of the information for you, and it depends on what kind of medicine it is. So go check it out, marfugglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. By the way, another thing is you can add certain things. There are certain things that were extremely hard to get. You can now add, and then also things like albuterol, breathers. I know, again, I've never, since I was 13 years old, I've never been somewhere without mine. So things like this are extremely important to some. Some wouldn't even notice. marfugglenews.com/Jace. Make sure to use the code MARF. Dex, in general, just so much craziness going on in the world. I guess we're just kind of taking it day by day.
It's getting hairy. I mean, it's, to me, the level of worrisome is higher this week than the past, and it's not headed down; it's headed up. Every week, it just seems like it's getting worse around here.
So we'll be following it. If you want to know, if you are the kind of person that you would rather know before it happens, or not be sideswiped by it, then follow our channel. Make sure to subscribe. It's always appreciated. Everybody that's been with me since I did these videos in my car, I appreciate you. I thank you for being here, and I thank all the new people. I thank you for actually telling new people about us. It is one of the few ways we grow. So if you can tell somebody about us, if they would value our show, if they like interesting or weird stuff, send them our way. They should fit in right away with us. So Thank you guys for accepting me and my weird thoughts and my weird theories. I appreciate you guys, and I love you. Thank you guys for accepting each other. I will see you in a bit. Again, if you want to see that other video, make sure to go and click here. That's the Marfoogle News, and continue watching the Marfoogle fam. Have a good night, guys. Thank you, J-Pass, Brian Knight, everybody else. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's I'm going to find the echo slider, which it wasn't working. A shoutro, where I do my horrible music for your satisfaction.